Picture this. You're scrolling through Zillow looking at homes in what used to be a quiet mountain town in Montana. The first listing, $850,000 for a modest 3-bedroom house. The second, $1.2 million. Welcome to Bozeman, Montana, where the median home price has skyrocketed to over $750,000, and a single-family home in Gallatin County will cost you a record-breaking $810,000 on average. But here's the crazy part. Just 5 years ago, you could buy that same house for about half the price. So what happened? How did this small mountain town become one of America's most expensive housing markets? Today, I'll dive deep into the perfect storm that turned Montana real estate into a luxury market. Let's start with the numbers because they tell an incredible story. Montana's house price index just hit 818.33, the highest on record. Now, if you're wondering what that means, think of it like this. If you bought a house during the baseline period for $100,000, that same house would theoretically be worth over $818,000 today. That's more than an 8 times increase. But here's where it gets really interesting. The pandemic changed everything. Before 2020, Montana's housing market was stable, predictable, even affordable by today's standards. Then 2020 hit and Montana became the fastest growing housing market in the entire country. We're talking annual price increases of 20 to 40% in some areas. The market got so hot that by late 2022, reality had set in. Annual growth crashed to just 1%, and by April of 2023, prices actually declined 4.1% from the previous year. But don't get too excited if you're a buyer. The market rebounded, and by the end of 2024, prices were back up 6.3% year over year. And here's a milestone that tells you the whole story. In 2020, Montana broke the 1 million population mark for the first time in state history. The secret was out in a big way. So who exactly is moving to Montana? The answer might actually surprise you. In 2020 and 2021, Montana was the #1 state for people moving into it. And get this, moves into Montana from out of state are twice as likely as people leaving. That's a massive net gain. Now, everybody talks about California, and they're right to. 27% of people moving to Montana are coming from California and Washington combined. But let's break down the full picture. Last year alone, just over 48,000 people moved to Montana from another state, while about 38,000 moved away. Beyond California and Washington, we're seeing major migration from Arizona, Texas, and Oregon. Even New York, Colorado, and Idaho are sending residents our way. Each of these states has one thing in common. Their housing costs are significantly higher than Montana's, or at least they were. Here's where things get really interesting for the housing market. The average home in major California cities costs around $1.1 million. In Washington, around $887,000. So when these buyers come to Montana and see a house for $700,000, it feels like a bargain. And many of them have the cash to prove it. According to Montana Title and Escrow, approximately 45% of their closings in 2021 were cash deals. Think about what that means. Nearly half of all buyers could waive appraisals, ignore financing contingencies, and bid over asking price without breaking a sweat. But the real game changer, the pandemic proved you could work remotely from anywhere. Suddenly, people making Silicon Valley salaries could live in Montana. Bozeman's website traffic from LA increased 99% in 2021. From New York, it went up 48%, and from Houston, Texas, a whopping 105% increase. Now you might be thinking, if demand is so high, why don't we just build more houses? Well, here's where Montana's story gets complicated. In 2021, the number of homes available for sale in Bozeman dropped by 60% compared to 2020. At the same time, the number of homes actually sold increased by nearly 50%. It was the perfect storm, massive demand, and virtually no supply. But here's something about Montana that many people just don't understand. You can't just build anywhere. 29% of our state is covered by wetlands, agricultural land, and federal land. That's land that cannot be sold or developed, period. Even where we can build, we're facing massive challenges. Montana's workforce is down by over 10,000 workers despite the influx of new residents. Finding skilled construction workers, really challenging. And when you do find them, labor costs have skyrocketed. Remember the lumber shortages during the pandemic? Those costs went through the roof, and honestly, they never really came back down. Add in strict building codes, high impact fees, and lengthy permitting processes, and building a new home has become incredibly expensive and time consuming. Right now, there are 524 residential properties for sale in the Bozeman and Greater Bozeman areas with a median list price of $849,000. So far in 2025, the median sold price was $765,000. Compared to 2021, all year, the median sold price was $625,000. We're talking about at least $150,000 increase in just 4 years. Bozeman's transformation didn't happen overnight. It started in 1997 when Greg Gianforte founded Right Now Technologies. When Oracle then bought that company, it put Bozeman on the tech map. Today, we've got Oracle as one of our largest employers, Founded Technologies started by MSU graduates, Mesa Laboratories employing over 700 people in biotech and medical equipment, and other companies like Quick and Schedulicity. Then there's the startup scene, Beartooth, Polo, Item Bounty, ShareLift, companies working on everything from agricultural technology to market research. Montana State University provides a steady pipeline of tech talent, and the whole ecosystem has created something unique, high-paying tech jobs in a mountain town setting. Here's the kicker. Jobs in Montana's high-tech sector pay salaries that are more than double the median earnings of a Montana worker. Competing for housing with California transplants also making six figures, prices go up fast. And then there's the lifestyle factor that you simply can't put a price on. Bozeman offers world-class skiing and snowboarding, fishing, hiking, lower crime rate, excellent schools according to online sources, and a genuine sense of community. It's got direct flights from 21 major metropolitan areas, so you're also not completely cut off from the world. Now, another piece of the puzzle that doesn't get talked about enough is property taxes and the role of investment properties. When home values skyrocket, property taxes follow. The median residential property tax bill in Montana rose 21% between 2022 and 2023 alone. That's on top of already inflated home prices. But Montana is fighting back with some interesting legislation. Starting in 2026, there's a new law that's going to change the game for second homeowners. Non-resident property owners and investors will face significantly higher property tax rates than primary residents. We're talking about a system that will distinguish between someone's primary home and their vacation property or investment. Here's why this matters. A significant portion of Montana's housing market has been driven by out-of-state investors and second home buyers. These aren't people moving here to live and work. They're treating Montana real estate like a commodity. Some are buying homes as vacation properties they use a few weeks a year. Others are purchasing investment properties to rent out, often as short-term vacation rentals. This investment activity removes homes from the market that local families could potentially buy while simultaneously driving up prices through increased demand. The new tax structure is designed to level the playing field and prioritize housing for actual residents over investors. And just a couple years back, on top of that, Bozeman also cracked down on the short-term rental market, making it increasingly challenging to get a short-term rental license in the Bozeman city limits or greater Bozeman area. Some do believe this had a positive impact on the rental market as well as property values, but I believe also the influx of new developments and added rental properties being added to that rental market are what made a much bigger impact on those rental prices and availability. And here's another thing many people don't realize. When housing prices explode, everything else gets more expensive too. The cost of living in Bozeman is now 20% higher than the national average. Even groceries in Montana can cost 4 to 5% more than the national average. Think about it from a business owner's perspective. If your employees can't afford to live here, you have to pay them more to attract and retain talent. Those higher labor costs get passed on to customers. It's a cycle that affects everyone from the barista making your morning coffee to the nurse at the local hospital. Local officials are calling it what it is. We're approaching a crisis point. The home price to median household income ratio in Gallatin County is now 10.3 times. That means the average household would need to spend over 10 times their entire annual income to buy the average home, and that's simply not sustainable. But the most heartbreaking part of this housing crisis is the people who make our communities function are struggling to afford to live here. Let me put this in perspective. For a household to afford a fair market rent, 2-bedroom apartment in Montana without spending more than 30% of their income on housing, they need to earn $19,000 $28 per hour. The average renter wage in Montana is just $16.91. We're talking about teachers, nurses, firefighters, police officers, and service workers being priced out of the communities they serve. In Bozeman specifically, buyers need to earn over $200,000 annually to afford the median home. That's 235% of the area median income. Think about what this means. Your kid's teacher, the nurse at the hospital, the person serving your coffee, they likely can't afford to buy a home here. So what is happening? These essential workers are either commuting from Belgrade, Manhattan, or even further out, adding an hour or more to their daily commute, or they're leaving Montana altogether, or leaving Bozeman in particular for some of those smaller communities in other parts of the state, more rural areas where it is more affordable to live. Some school districts are struggling to fill positions because qualified teachers simply can't afford to live in the area. Now, to be fair, Montana isn't alone in this struggle. Across the Mountain West, we're seeing similar patterns. Aspen, Colorado has median home prices over $7 million. Jackson Hole, Wyoming, around $3 million. Park City, Utah is sitting around $2.5 million. So when you look at it that way, Bozeman's $850,000 median might seem more reasonable. But here's the key difference. Those places have been expensive luxury markets for decades. Montana was supposed to be the affordable alternative. Places like Aspen and Jackson became playgrounds for the ultra-wealthy gradually over time. Montana's transformation happened in just a few years, and that rapid change has been especially jarring for longtime residents. What we're seeing is the amenity migration phenomenon that's hit mountain communities across the West. People with means are choosing the lifestyle over proximity to major job centers, and technology has made that possible in ways it never was before. So where does that leave us today? Well, the market has definitely shifted. Inventory is up 16.6% from last year, and we're seeing signs of a more balanced market. 17% of listings have seen price reductions, and unlike the crazy years of 2020 to 2022, very few houses are selling above list price anymore. Here's another interesting thing though. Homes are now staying on the market an average in Montana of 109 days. In Bozeman, that average is about half that, or a little less than half that, in fact, at around 45 days, depending on the price point. But it does show that the market is normalizing. And here's one key insight. Homes that are priced right are still selling relatively quickly. It's the overpriced properties that are sitting on the market for quite a bit longer. As for new development, there are multiple residential projects in planning and construction phases around Bozeman and Greater Bozeman. The good news is that new supply should help moderate price growth. The reality check, most of these developments won't deliver significant inventory for 1 to 3 years due to permitting and construction timelines. And there's another challenge. Most new developments focus on higher end housing because that's what's profitable given land and construction costs. They're not necessarily solving the affordable housing shortage that's really driving this crisis. I do have an entire video about several of the new developments going on around Bozeman if you'd like to check that out and learn a little bit more, with more of those to come. And I do know about a brand new development that I'm going to be covering in one of my future videos. They haven't even broken ground yet. They're just getting through that permitting process, but they are going to focus on affordable single-family homes, not just townhomes. So I'm really excited to see what comes from that. Looking ahead to that and beyond, experts are predicting that Bozeman and Kalispell may see some initial price leveling or maybe a tiny bit of decline, but the long-term potential remains strong. Montana now has the third least competitive housing market in 2025, a major change from the peak years when bidding wars were the norm. The big unknown is remote work. As companies call employees back to the office, will we see some of that California money leave Montana? It's really hard to say. But with Bozeman's airport offering direct flights to major metros, my guess is people who want to live here will find a way to make it work. What I can say is that price growth is returning to more historical norms. We're talking 4 to 7% annually instead of the 20 to 40% we saw during the peak. That's still above national averages, but it's a lot more sustainable than what we experienced. So here's the bottom line. Montana real estate got expensive because of a perfect storm of factors. A massive migration of out-of-state buyers with serious purchasing power, a supply shortage constrained by geography and regulations, an economic transformation that brought high-paying jobs to a small town, and a global pandemic that made remote work from paradise not just possible, but desirable. As one real estate expert put it, the secret is out that Montana is the last best place. For a long time, it went unnoticed, but like all good things, once it gets discovered, it's gonna cost you. So what do you think? Are you considering a move to Montana? Are you a local dealing with these housing costs? Drop a comment below and let me know your experience. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into Montana's changing landscape, vlog tours, pros and cons, and more. And if you want to watch more right now, this is a playlist with videos all about living in and around Bozeman. I've got playlists all about other towns in the area as well. So be sure to check those out, and you can always reach out to me if you have any questions at all. I'd be happy to chat with you. You can give me a call, shoot me a text. We could even set up a Zoom. And until next time, I hope to show you around town.